Okay, sir.
Bipender,
Uh,
if I may just say something,
yes, sir, please go ahead.
uh, see, I, for one, as a layman, don't think that we should bank too much on our allies all the time. We should do our own heavy lifting. But having said that, we do have some leverage with US. The US is keen that we stay engaged and involved in Afghanistan. In March 2021, there was a conference on Afghanistan in Russia, where the participants were the Taliban, the China, Pakistan, and USA. We were not there. So I think we should try to use whatever leverage we have to apply all solutions to open the lines of communication with Taliban. And like the ambassador said, maybe we can offer infrastructure help. Maybe we can offer some other help. But we should make a beginning, because status quo is obviously neither practiced in diplomacy nor is desirable. And if you mentioned to me that you read my article in Financial Express, where I had copy pasted somebody else's quote. It's my favorite quote. Some people love status quo long after quo has lost all status. Now we don't want to be we don't want to be those people. We don't want to be those people, right? So we want to move ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Can
sir.
I,
Yes,
for
sir,
a second?
please.
I'm afraid that the US will lose a lot of influence and leverage now. And the assurances that are being meted out that they will stay engaged or they will conduct military strikes, air strikes, etc. I will not read much into them. But there are some reports that US is looking at staging facilities in Pakistan again. Now, if that is the case, it will have an impact. But yes, I do agree that we are literally on our own when it comes to Afghanistan now. And our proximity or friendship with the US will not help us, will in fact be read against it, would be seen against us. But there could be some commonality of ground with Iran, because Iran would have similar concerns as India has. But Pakistan, China, and to an extent Russia will have their own outlook, which may or may not be similar to ours.
Okay, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, I'll come to you. In the past few years, China has emerged as an active player in Afghanistan. I mean, that has been repeated by both you and General Bali here. Beijing has repeatedly spoken about bringing Afghanistan into its BRI, Belt and Road Initiative foreign policy vision, and also increasing Afghan connectivity with the Central Asian nations and Pakistan. So basically, that's what they had propounded recently. Does this mean that with the withdrawal of the US troops, Afghanistan will be given on a platter to China in some manner because of the huge financial power that they wield at this point in time?
Well, China had also announced that they will invest $1 billion in copper mines and things like that. Their interest is, in a way, very limited to, or there are two aspects of their interest. One is to see the US out, and second is to make sure that fundamentalist elements, and that includes Taliban also, does not have much of a interaction or impact on the Xinjiang province, on Uyghurs. Now, there will be a massive contradiction between the Taliban's outlook and the Chinese outlook. And also, please, let's remember that China has been talking about extending CPEC into Afghanistan, but they have not done anything much. I don't think China will be in a hurry to do anything till the position stabilizes, until they have a clear understanding with the Taliban. And I don't think any nation will be betting big on continuation of Taliban for a long time. It could be 5 years, 2 years, maybe more, maybe less. Because if Taliban gets back to its bad old ways, there is going to be a problem. So, in long and short of it is, there are lots of moving pieces. There is no certainty. The only certainty is that there'll be uncertainty, there'll be instability, there'll be violence, and there will be problems. which will fan out from the region to different parts of the region and beyond.
Yes, sir. Okay, General Bali, in fact, you mentioned about this Financial Express article that you had written and which I told you that I had read. In that you mentioned about India will facing a formidable challenge and opposition from Pakistan and Afghanistan. So, how do you think that game will be played between India and Pakistan and Afghanistan? Could you throw us some insight on that?
It would be ironical if I started with good news, but I would. There is some thinking among the Indian security establishment that the present chief of the army staff in Pakistan, Bajwa, is not keen on fomenting trouble for whatever reasons he has. So that is the only glimmer of hope and light in an otherwise completely dark scenario. Whether it has any bearing at all on what I'm about to say next, I'm not sure. But I just mentioned it to you as something that people believe. Maybe he has political ambitions. Maybe he wants to look like a statesman, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, as the ambassador said right in the beginning, this is going to be perceived as a major victory for Pakistan. Right? On the days when they're hard put to get any wins at home or abroad, this is the major one. And Pakistan has all along believed that Afghanistan provides its strategic depth. They don't want India to be so-called encircling them. I think it was only yesterday or maybe day before that their foreign minister Qureshi said, speaking to one of the Afghan newspapers, he said, I know you have bilateral relations, you're good with India, and this is fine with us, but I think sometimes we believe that there is too much of India in Afghanistan, particularly when you don't share a border. All right. So that's at the back of their mind. There is unease that India should not make any inroads, and I think that is exactly what they will continue to do. Whether this will go as far as again training militants in Afghanistan, please remember that Taliban had no interest in Kashmir. The militants trained by Afghans, Lashkar-e-Taiba or Harkat Ansar or the guys, people like me fought, many of them were trained in Afghanistan. But whether that is about to happen again, I don't think that's in any foreseeable future. We should worry too much about that part. That's relatively a minor issue. But Pakistanis will fight tooth and nail not to allow our presence. And if they have the say they have with Taliban, if they have the leverage which they claim they have, then I'm afraid it's going to be an uphill task for us.
Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, I wanted to ask you about the role of Russia. The Soviet Union, the erstwhile Soviet Union had a great role, very important role to play in how history was played out in Afghanistan, and then they failed in their attempt to, control and have a hold over Afghanistan. So history is kind of repeating itself as far as the Americans are concerned vis-a-vis the Russians. Where do you see the Russians and the Iranians playing a role in Afghanistan? How would their role shape up, and will it be favorable to India? What is your opinion on that?
That's $1 million question, and that is something that I keep deliberating on. As far as favoring India is concerned, you would recall that recently when Russia was holding a consultation on it at the request of Pakistan, they tried to keep India out. But then other influences prevailed, and India joined the consultations. Now, unfortunately, the phase of instability and violence started in 1979 with the entry of Soviet Union into Afghanistan, and it has been continuing. And that way, this very proud nation has been blighted with violence and instability for more than 4 decades. Let's also remember that Russia was supporting the Northern Alliance, not the Taliban. And so they don't have much in common with Taliban, but what has changed now is Russia's equation with China and a changing equation with Pakistan. So I think that Russia will have to think hard and deep, because their ability to bring in finances in infrastructure projects or helping helping the Taliban or helping Afghanistan will be limited. Now, whether they will want to go the Chinese line is up to them, which they may not totally do that because they are not comfortable being a junior partner of China. So, frankly, as I see it, and my good friend General Wali may have a better insight into it, they are trying to feel their way around to see what kind of a role they want to play. Their role to me is not very clear as to what exactly they can do, and can they be supportive of Taliban? Can they oppose the Taliban? How will it pan out? I'm not so sure.
I completely agree with that. All I will say to add to that is that there is a certain aggressiveness under Vladimir Putin for so many years and decades now, which is fanning up, which is manifesting itself in many parts of the world. So I think they would have an interest. In what form and shape it will play out, that is anybody's guess right now. My only pointer to this is that, if you recall, there was a talk many months ago that the Russians had offered bounty the head of American soldiers, and that bounty had been offered to the Taliban. If that is true, which of course Donald Trump's administration assiduously disagreed with, as they would, but if that part is true, then that should give us an indication that there is a line of communication, there is some sort of understanding, however incipient, which is there and which might fan out. But otherwise, I agree with every word that we really don't know. It's all very uncertain in which direction it will go. As far as Iran is concerned, I think they are occupied with the US. They are occupied with their internal politics. They are occupied with Yemen. They are occupied with Iraq, for that matter. And all that Iran would want is that if they have a Sunni government, Sunni country on their borders, and particularly the one that proclaims Sharia, things should remain stable. So they would be probably just shaking hands for that purpose more than anything else. That's what I believe.
Okay. This is a question that I'm addressing to both General Bali and Ambassador Prakash here. What is the end state that both of you would suggest is suitable for India, is good for India, and what India desires in Afghanistan?
Can I take a shot?
Yeah, please, Ambassador Prakash, you should go first.
I think that will be rather presumptuous on our part if we were to look at it from what is good for us. I would want to look at it from what is good for Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan, what is in Afghanistan's interest. One would have very much wanted to see a democratic Afghanistan, but after so many years of the Taliban influence and Islamization, I think the better thing would be to have a moderate Islamic state. So, and where Islam does play an important role. And I would think it's difficult, but if there's a national unity government, including all stakeholders for at least 10 to 20 years, so that there is stability, there is not much of contestation, that positions get harmonized. At that stage, and which would also mean that Taliban will have to be co-opted. Taliban can be pushed back. Taliban can be defeated temporarily, but cannot be eliminated. They will remain a part of the governance matrix. So once they are co-opted, if a UN peacekeeping force is brought in to oversee oversee peace, to make sure that things are not disturbed, I find that some members of the strategic community advocate bringing in a UN peace force now. I hope and pray that that does not happen, because there is going to be huge casualties, and Taliban is going to be dead opposed to that. And lastly, to set up a forum, whatever the name is, like say Friends of Afghanistan, to finance developmental projects, to help in reconciliation amongst different stakeholders if required, to train the Afghan army police, because the whole lot of things have to be done, because Afghanistan would require hand-holding. So it's a tough call. I don't see that happening right now. But to my mind, if Afghanistan has to be stabilized, that is the best way forward.
General Bali, what are your views on that?
Once again, I agree. The fact of the matter is that, as the ambassador subtly implied, we can dream all we want to dream about what is ideal for us, what is great for us. But dreams are not hopes. Dreams and hopes are not strategies. They're not plans. Eventually, we have to see really what is good for Afghanistan and where do we fit into that picture. I also completely agree that the UN peacekeeping force or any outsider at this point of time is going to be a terrible idea. Fareed Zakaria, the respected journalist who speaks on CNN and writes for Washington Post, he had asked a very pertinent question. He said, we can revile Taliban all we want, and they probably deserve being reviled. But have you ever asked a question as to why do they succeed? How is it that they still hold a sway in rural Afghanistan? The fact of the matter is that they are able to swim like a fish in the sea, to use Mao's words, for the simple reason that maybe the local populace hates the outsider more than they hate what is happening to them inside. They don't like to be subjugated. Afghans are very proud people, and therefore any force from outside, whether they are wearing berets or blue helmets, is not going to be seen kindly. So eventually, yes, our greatest hope and pray and wish is that there is a stable democracy and we are able to deal with that government of the day. Now, the US has repeatedly said there should be a transitional government, co-opting everyone, all the warlords, everyone gets their pie of the cake, including the Taliban. The present Taliban government, the Afghan government seems to think that that's not the route. They should hold elections. Their vice president said a few days ago, we will hold the most strenuously watched elections in the world, and whatever it throws up. I don't know whether that's the right route to take either. Whatever be the outcome, I think realpolitik says, let's focus on who's going to rule the roost there. Let's open the lines of communication with all parties quickly. Let us try to get our foot in the door. Let's protect our interests the best that way. What happens to Afghanistan? We hope things turn out well, but 2 decades of US nation building combined with brute force has neither eliminated violence nor brought about women equality to any great degree, nor removed opium trade, nor brought any stable democracy. So we don't know where it will go. Uncertainty is really the name of the game. But let's open doors of communication. Let's try to talk to everybody so that whoever is in power tomorrow, maybe we can protect our interests.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think that is well said from both of you. The government that comes in Afghanistan as the US withdraws should be good for the Afghans themselves, and India should get a foothold to deal with the government, a democratically elected government, preferably in Afghanistan in the days to come. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today for this discussion. It's been an enriching one for me personally, and I hope my viewers also would be enjoying this discussion and gaining from the knowledge that you have shared with us. Thank you very much. You have a nice day.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for it's been wonderful listening to the ambassador. Thank you.
Likewise, I think it has been a very good conversation. Thank you very much.